The boxing world is buzzing with a storyline that feels like it was ripped straight from a Hollywood script. Floyd "Money" Mayweather, the man who walked away from professional boxing with a pristine 50-0 record and a reputation as one of the greatest defensive fighters of all time, is reportedly considering a return to the ring at the age of 48. This isn't another exhibition against a YouTube personality or an aging veteran. The whispers this time are louder, scarier, and far more dangerous. A potential professional fight against Terence "Bud" Crawford, a man many call the most complete fighter in the sport today. And it's Joe Rogan who has become one of the loudest voices warning that this return may not just be risky, it could be catastrophic. Rogan, never one to hold back his opinions on combat sports, zeroed in on the reality of what Mayweather would face if he dares to fight Crawford at nearly 50 years old. He acknowledged Mayweather's brilliance, his unrivaled defensive reflexes, and his mastery of the sweet science. But Rogan's tone carried a different weight this time, almost like a plea. Floyd's body, he warned, is not going to be nearly as efficient as it once was. The efficiency, the reflexes, the endurance, the very qualities that made Mayweather untouchable, inevitably decline with age, no matter how great the athlete. Rogan stressed that even completing 12 grueling rounds at this stage in Floyd's life would be a monumental challenge. Against someone like Crawford, who is bigger, stronger, and in his absolute prime, Rogan fears the outcome could be disastrous, and he isn't alone. Former champions, trainers, and analysts have chimed in, with many echoing the same sentiment. The Mayweather of 2025 isn't the Mayweather of 2015. Terence Crawford, on the other hand, is at the height of his powers, fresh off dominant victories against elite names like Errol Spence Jr. and even Canelo Alvarez. Crawford is dynamic, vicious, and adaptable in a way that few fighters are. He can switch stances fluidly, control distance with his long reach, and explode with combinations that end fights in a blink. Timothy Bradley, a respected voice in the sport, didn't mince words. Crawford would melt a 49-year-old version of Floyd Mayweather, brutally stop him. That's the nightmare scenario people can't ignore. Mayweather's last professional fight was in 2017 against Conor McGregor, a spectacle that ended as expected, with Floyd overwhelming an MMA fighter out of his element. But that was 8 years ago. He was already 40 then. Today, Floyd is pushing 50. And even though he's kept himself in immaculate physical condition, the brutal truth is this: no man can cheat time. Speed slows, reflexes dull, and endurance falters. Crawford, by contrast, represents the new era of boxing dominance. He's not just winning, he's dismantling his opponents. Analysts call him the most complete fighter alive, capable of countering Mayweather's pull jabs, neutralizing his shoulder roll, and punishing his attempts to lead with the right. Crawford's 3-inch reach advantage and natural size as a welterweight who has comfortably climbed into higher weight classes only add to the imbalance. As Shane Mosley pointed out, Floyd always thrived against opponents around his size. Against a naturally bigger, fresher, and hungrier Crawford, the size and strength gap would be glaring. This raises the central question: why is Mayweather even entertaining such an idea? Fans speculate it's a mix of competitive pride and the allure of yet another historic payday. Mayweather's brand has always been about money and spectacle, and there's no denying that a Mayweather versus Crawford fight would shatter pay-per-view records. It would be billed as the ultimate clash of eras. The defensive genius who never lost versus the modern pound-for-pound king. But underneath that spectacle lies an uncomfortable truth. This fight could ruin Floyd's spotless legacy. For years, critics have accused Mayweather of carefully curating his resume, waiting out opponents until they were past their peak, or picking fights that maximized financial return while minimizing risk. Roy Jones Jr., another legend of the sport, went so far as to question whether Mayweather belongs in the top 5 greatest fighters of all time, arguing that outside of Canelo, many of Floyd's biggest wins came against faded or undersized competition. That undefeated record, Jones argued, doesn't tell the whole story. A fight against Crawford now at 48 would flip that narrative on its head. Instead of being accused of avoiding danger, Floyd would be running headlong into it. Some fans cling to the belief that Mayweather's defensive wizardry and ring IQ could still carry him through. They remember the man who toyed with Canelo Alvarez, who outclassed Manny Pacquiao, who turned elite punchers into frustrated, helpless shadows of themselves. They argue that Floyd's style wasn't built on raw power or speed alone, but on timing, positioning, and discipline, traits that don't erode as quickly as physical gifts. Yet even those arguments crumble under the weight of reality. Crawford isn't just any opponent. He's one of the most adaptive and intelligent fighters boxing has ever seen. Unlike many of Floyd's past foes, Crawford has the ability to change his approach mid-fight, forcing adjustments on the fly. Against a younger Floyd, that might have set up a chess match for the ages. Against a 48-year-old Floyd, it could spell disaster. The debate has split the boxing community. Analysts like Timothy Bradley insist Crawford would win even if both men were in their primes. Others, like Oscar de la Hoya, disagree, pointing to Mayweather's flawless record and historic dominance as proof that nobody, not even Crawford, surpasses him in greatness. But even de la Hoya admitted Crawford is exceptional, and perhaps the most dangerous active fighter in the world. Meanwhile, respected voices like Salam Bey urge caution in comparing fighters across eras, warning that the discussion often oversimplifies their unique challenges and achievements. Still, the tide of opinion leans heavily toward Crawford. The consensus is clear. Today, in 2025, there's no version of Mayweather that can withstand him. Not at 48, not after years of exhibitions against opponents who couldn't threaten him, not when Crawford is sharpening his tools against the very best of this generation. Joe Rogan's concern speaks to something deeper than boxing strategy. It's about the danger of ego and legacy colliding with time. He's seen too many fighters chase one last high, only to be humiliated or worse, seriously hurt. The thought of Floyd stepping into a professional fight at nearly 50 against a killer like Crawford feels less like a celebration of greatness and more like a tragedy waiting to happen. "What are you doing, Floyd?" Rogan asked, his voice a mix of disbelief and exasperation. "What are you doing, bro?" The truth is, no matter how much money is on the table, no matter how much Mayweather wants to prove he's still the best ever, the stakes are different now. One bad night, one brutal knockout, and the image of Floyd as an untouchable genius could be shattered forever. The allure of 50-0 would vanish, replaced by the memory of a 48-year-old legend lying battered at the hands of a younger champion. And maybe that's why this story has gripped fans so tightly. It's not just about boxing. It's about the human drama of pride, age, and legacy. It's about watching a man who spent his life defying the odds try to defy the one opponent nobody can escape: time. Whether Mayweather actually signs the contract or lets the speculation fade, the very possibility has forced us to confront uncomfortable questions. Is greatness timeless, or does it fade when the body can no longer keep up with the mind? Can legacy survive one last roll of the dice? So now it comes to you. Should Floyd Mayweather risk it all for one more shot under the bright lights, knowing the dangers, knowing the odds, knowing that Terence Crawford might be the fighter who ends the legend's perfect record? Or should he walk away forever, preserving his spotless resume and leaving the sport with his legacy intact? Do you believe Crawford is truly the man who could dethrone Floyd even if he were in his prime? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.